You're listening to the A Bit From Within podcast with Felicia Marty. This is the same advice that I would give any of my clients or anyone I was just talking to or any of my friends. I would say when you have a lot going on, the best thing that you can do for yourself is pull back in the areas that do not need your immediate attention, even if you feel they should, because they usually get it. It is okay to make the decisions that other people don't like. It's okay to be wherever you are and to do the things that feel right now, whether that's temporary or whether you're ready to put it into action long term. Hello, and thank you so much for joining me today for a new episode of the A Bit From Within podcast. My name is Felicia. I am a self-care specialist as well as a certified astrologer, and every week I come here to share just a little bit from within. Every week on the podcast, we talk about how just the little things in our life, the little ways that we behave, the way we think, those are the things that actually lead to the big changes in our lives. It's not the big leaps of faith or constantly shaking things up or extreme ways of changing ourselves that always do the work. Sometimes it's just chipping away at it slowly, staying inspired, rooting yourself down, knowing who you are. Those things go so far. And you know what else goes a really long way? Is taking care of yourself. In order to take care of yourself, you have to understand that you are worthy of taking care of. And you have to be willing to do the things that actually take care of yourself instead of just continuing to go through the motions. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, even though I specialize this and I'm constantly affirming it and encouraging other people with this, I still struggle with this often. And you know when I really, really struggle with it is when things are stressful. And as you're about to find out in today's episode, I'm personally going through a lot of weird stress right now. If you've been keeping up for a while, in fact, it was so heartwarming to me. I had a wonderful astrology reading this week, and my client let me know they had been listening to my podcast for a while. And when we got on, they said, "Oh my God, I feel so bad that we're listening, that we're doing this right now. You've got so much going on." And I had to say, no. Like I am 100% happy to do this. This is a wonderful moment for me. I love connecting with other people. And I was honored to take that time to connect with them and much less know that they had been listening to the podcast. That was amazing. But it made me realize that, oh man, things really are getting intense if other people listening to the podcast are knowing just how much I have going on. And, you know, I think one of the things that I've been struggling with this week is feeling like I need to be minimizing what I'm going through. In fact, I realized earlier this week, oh my gosh, we're a week into a new month and I haven't even updated my Patreon to when we're going to be doing our live classes, our live yoga classes, our live meditation. And that is just not like me. I am Miss Integrity. I'm going to take care of my people. Like I'm going to have things scheduled. I'm usually very type A, but I just started a new job that has taken, so much of my time and my mental bandwidth, and I'm so excited about it, and I'm fully committed to that, and we're selling our house, and I'm just gonna be honest, like one thing led to another and things got crazy, and I know I should extend myself the same compassion that anybody else in my position I would immediately offer it to, but it can be hard to do that. It can be very hard. Sometimes, I don't know if you go through this, but sometimes I fight with myself thinking, you should have done more. You should have had more energy. You should have had a better plan. You should. And I fall into the trap of the shoulds. And so I, quickly rectified this problem, right? I immediately put out dates and I was like, okay, good. I'm going to connect with these people. Everything's okay. Like my philosophy this past few weeks has just been like, how do you eat an elephant? Well, you eat it one bite at a time. So, and I'm not talking about literally eating an elephant, but just, figuratively, like if you're going to tackle something huge, you're just, you just one step down the path. How do you hike a mountain? Maybe that would be a better analogy. One step at a time. But yes, as soon as I got that out, and then it was like I turned to focus on another area, we listed our house for sale, and boom, all of these showings happened, and they were all exactly when I scheduled my first yoga class of the month for. And so, oh my gosh, I was going to cancel the showings or try to move them around. And then my real estate agent was like, that's not a great idea if you can help it, just because it's opening, weekend of your house. Like you want to come in strong. And I'm like, that's true. It can, make or break a deal. Like that could be the offer that comes in, And so I was really stressed about it. And finally Dave was like, you have enough going on. Your community is amazing. They will understand. And so at the last minute, I had to, just step into that place and say, I've got to reschedule. And I don't even know when I'm going to reschedule for, because literally, like I don't even know the best mode of figurative transportation to talk about how crazy things have been. And so maybe I'm just going to use this week to share with you about how I'm navigating some of these crazy transitions in life. But also, I really want to dive into the trap of the shoulds and how we can maybe make a commitment to ourselves to not fall into that place. But first, I do want to give you just a quick hit of what is going on astrologically right now. Every week, I try to include a little preview of just a few things happening that you can keep a pulse on. One, you should know that we are in the week of the last quarter moon. So if you are feeling tired right now, especially as you head through the next week, please know that that is absolutely okay. Take time to rest, take time to slow down. The other thing that I think is very similar in that vein is that the planet Saturn is switching signs right now. Saturn is a very slow moving planet. It's not our slowest moving planet, but astrologically, it stays in one sign for about 2.5 to 3 years at a time. So for the past 3 years, so since January of 2020, it's been living and breathing in the sign of Aquarius. And a lot of interesting things were happening when Saturn was in Aquarius. A lot of restriction, a lot of social change, a lot of changes to the structures that we're living in, the routines that we have, even, how we're using technology. I mean, it's no surprise that work from home began to happen in full force during Saturn in Aquarius. Well, last Tuesday, the day of the full moon, Saturn moved into Pisces. Very different energy. And so this is the beginning of some big shifts. Now, I'm going to say I probably need to do a little bit more of collecting my thoughts on this issue before I can fully expand on it. But what I will say is that Saturn is the planet of, are you doing things the way that you're supposed to be doing them? And Pisces is this imaginative, very compassionate, deeply feeling and deeply spiritual place, very spiritual sign. So as Saturn moves into Pisces, one of the things I want you to pay attention to is your feelings around your public self versus your private self. And maybe your need to go inward quite a bit more. Your feeling around being very true to yourself, and that is not from your shell, right? Your outer personality, but your true, authentic, internal personality, and the importance of you taking care of yourself spiritually. Something to begin thinking about now and to continue to develop your relationship on. It's going to happen over the next few years. Now, that's a quick hit on Saturn. The other thing that's happening is this weekend, Jupiter and the asteroid Chiron are making an exact alignment. They call this a conjunction. This is going to be some big waves as well. In fact, I think this is one of the year's biggest transits. Jupiter expands things. It's a lucky planet. It makes everything a little bit better and bigger and more abundant. While Chiron is the wounded healer. It shows up in our charts in places where we need to find great healing in our lifetime. So having Jupiter and Chiron conjunct like this is an expansion in our ability to heal specific areas of our lives. So if you've been going through some things lately where you feel like you're leveling up, you're starting to resolve things, you're finding closure to issues, or you're really starting to get to a place where you're looking back, you're like, wow, I've done a lot of work in this area. And now I'm even getting to the point where I feel comfortable speaking this to other people, sharing what I've done. That is no surprise. That is exactly what Jupiter and Chiron are doing together. I think there's no surprise that this is happening right now, right as Saturn moves into Pisces. And it's almost like as we move towards this equinox, as we move towards the new moon, which is on the 21st, as we move towards Aries energy, springtime, first, before we let ourselves get too carried away, we need to root ourselves in our wisdom. We need to connect back to ourselves. We need to be willing to slow down and really pay attention to where we're at. Now, I realize that this advice is almost always valuable. But when things are shifting, you have to be rooted or else you might lose yourself. So just remember that if you feel like you have a lot going on right now, and you probably do, slow down, get out into nature, put your feet to the earth. Remember that not everything is a crisis. Not everything is an immediate thing. And just come back to your own innate wisdom. And if you're not sure what that voice is, just be patient because you will hear it. I promise you. And trust me, I'm taking my own advice right now. In fact, I've committed to myself to keep this episode closer to 20 minutes instead of the usual 40, 45 minutes, because I have this tendency to always take things to be so big and great. You know, I have this tendency to feel like I have to constantly measure up, and not showing up in that way is something that I struggle with. It's like there's this unspoken rule in my head that says like, you should be better. I mean, even I'm telling you what, you guys, even with this house thing, I mean, luckily Dave and I are on the same page, but the level we are trying to keep our house clean and straightened up and just ready for anyone to come here and picture themselves walking into this house. I mean, it takes so much energy to hold ourselves to that standard. It would be much easier just to say, oh, we're living here right now. So picture yourselves, you know, we have laundry, we have toothpaste, we have toothbrushes, we wash ourselves with loofahs, you know, like that would all be easier. But that said, I'm also trying to remember that what you put into something is what you get out of it. And there's a balance between the two. And I think that's where I can sometimes fall out of balance. And so many of us, we hold ourselves to such an intense standard. Maybe not in every area of our life, but maybe even it's just certain areas of our life where we can't let ourselves slow down or slip up or be human. And if we do, if those things kind of break through the cracks, or we lose our, balls that we're juggling, then we can fall into a wide variety of places. I think for me, I haven't exactly fallen into disrepair. I think that would have been old Felicia. Old Felicia would have just fallen apart when she couldn't handle it all. I'm not falling apart. I think where I'm at is it just stresses me out. So I've not gotten to the place, like what would be the ideal is I would love it if I were the kind of person that were like, oh my gosh, there's a lot going on right now. I'm just handling it with laughter. And I mean, not that I wouldn't be taking it seriously, but just understanding, this is life sometimes. Sometimes life is fully uncontrollable. Sometimes change is extremely challenging, and it's all good. Things don't have to be perfect. Is this transition and how I handled it and the things that happened or didn't happen, is that going to matter in 5 years? And the answer is probably not. So why do I have to take it so seriously? And I think this is something important for all of us to know, is like, well, what would be the ideal way that we would want to get towards? I'm not there yet. I am not that relaxed about it. I am feeling stressed out. And I share that with you because I want us to be able to normalize that it is okay to be stressed. It is okay to be scared. Now, do any of us want to live in that place? I think the answer is no. I don't want to live in this place. I don't like it. I'm not proud that I'm feeling this way. But I also don't want to beat it down and make it seem like this is where the should trap come in. There's a should trap that's going through my head saying, you are so privileged. You should be handling this with grace. You should be happy to go hang out in the car with your dogs during these showings. You should be, talking more positively about everything that's going on. You should be more willing to share all your plans of where you're going. And the truth is, that is not how it feels for me. In fact, I'm going to get really candid about part of this process that I'm working through right now. So Dave and I have been working on this project. I alluded to this last week. We've been really working on figuring out what is the next step of our life and what is that going to look like. And it's taken a lot of courage to get here. Very quick catch up in case you're new to the podcast. Our life has really changed a lot over the last few months. And that is a career change for me. That is us, finding a new house, selling our first home. We got another dog. Like things are changing pretty significantly. And this is something that I've wanted for a long time. But how my life tends to work is that I want things and then I really spend a lot of time envisioning it and working towards it, and just think a lot of things have to fall into place. And during that time, it feels very slow. It feels like I'm not getting anywhere. It feels monotonous. It feels painful. It feels frustrating. Not all the time, but just when I think about how fast things are moving, that's how it feels. And then, boom, everything changes at once. I mean, I could literally tell you multiple times in my life that this is exactly how it's happened. And so now that I've experienced it a lot, I'm more used to, I can trust the process a little bit more. Okay, this is how things happen for me. Things feel really slow. And then boom, everything changes at once, and it's crazy and it's stressful and it's fun and it's exciting and amazing blessings happen. And I'm allowed to be a little bit scared, or I'm allowed to be a little bit stressed. But one of the things that I'm trying to do differently this time is that the last time when we bought this house, I guess I'm just comparing it to that because they are kind of parallel experiences. I felt compelled to do what people expected out of me. I was very public about, where we were moving, the kind of house we're moving. I was sharing all of those details. And, even with my business, well, you guys know me. I wear my heart on my sleeve. I share a lot publicly. I come here every week and share a bit from within. I do wear a lot on my sleeve. And I think because of that, I really, because of my personality, I really love to make people feel warm and welcome. And it's not even just how I make them feel. I enjoy connecting deeply with other people. I like looking into their eyes. I like knowing what they have to say. I like sharing pieces of my heart with them. This is how I want to move through life. And sometimes the downside of that is that when you have certain things that you want to keep private, other people will make you feel like you should be telling them. And I will say that I've run into this quite a bit as we've been preparing to make our transition. I've got a lot of people who are and even friends who I'm 100% sure absolutely love me, but a lot of people who are I need an update from you. What's happening? Where are you going? What's the status of this? What's the status of that? I'm getting a lot of questions of where are you going? Where are you going? Where are you going? And it's taken me a while to realize that I'm not ready to share that with anyone else. How I said that is a bit of a miswording. I realized that was my truth early on. but I felt like I shouldn't feel that way. And so for weeks now and months now, I have been bumping into this trap of shoulds and overthinking, how should I move through this? How should I tell people what I'm going through? How should I handle, my TikTok where I'm talking about astrology? Well, this week I haven't posted very much. How should I handle that? How should I handle the Patreon? How should I handle the showings? There are so many shoulds running through my head right now. And knowing that there are so many people that I love in my community, in my friend circle, in my family that are wanting, and I think they would say lovingly, but it doesn't always feel loving to me, wanting answers out of me. I think what they don't realize, and what I probably need to do a better job of sharing, is that those kind of questions are stressing me out right now. Where I am at in the process is understanding that it is my right to choose what I share and when I share it and with who I share it. And other people don't have to like that. They can be mad at me. They can be frustrated. They could choose to, in a worst case scenario, choose to, put their middle finger up at me and not be friends with me anymore. That's their choice, and I have to respect that. But I also have to respect what's best for me right now. And I don't know all of the answers as to how to successfully float through a big major life change without any stress. I do not have those answers. But if I had any hunch right now, the thing I'm going with right now, it's just doing what feels right for me. So not sharing publicly where we're heading, what the next step is, that feels best for me because there are still moving pieces in the air that we don't have figured out. And I don't want to have to re-explain. So I'm not explaining anything until I know and I have answers. That's where I'm at. And I feel the more clear that I get with that boundary and the less fragile I feel with it, the less the should of, well, other people want to know, I should make them happy, I should answer their questions. The more I'm like, no, I should protect my own privacy on this. I should listen to myself because that voice is telling me something. That voice is there for a reason. Also, whenever things pick up like this in my life, and if I hope that this little bit from within me can share and connect with a piece of what's going on for you. When things start to get faster, it's very easy to spin out more quickly with the shoulds and to lose yourself in the shoulds. And if anything, when things start to pick up, it's better to pull back in some ways. Ooh, this is the first time that I'm really connecting this, and I'm just trying to breathe into it for a second. Because I'm telling you guys, it is hard for me to pull back. It is hard for me to record a short episode of the podcast. It is hard for me to not post on TikTok. It is hard for me to not be the most consistent and most reliable yoga teacher through Patreon. It is hard for me. But I do feel very strongly right now that the best way that I can take care of my mental health and my physical health is by focusing on what's right in front of me right now. And while I could stress myself out and put myself to the point where I am not sleeping well, I'm over functioning, I am stressed, I could do that because of the shoulds, or I can say, Felicia, this is your chance to show what you actually teach. And this is the same advice that I would give any of my clients or anyone I was just talking to or any of my friends. I would say, when you have a lot going on, the best thing that you can do for yourself is pull back in the areas that do not need your immediate attention, even if you feel they should, because they usually get it. So I guess that's the last thing I'll say, is that it is okay to make the decisions that other people don't like. It is okay to take care of yourself. It is okay to be scared. It is okay to be stressed. It is okay to be happy. It is okay to be wherever you are and to do the things that feel right now, whether that's temporary or whether you're ready to put it into action long term. It's okay to be where we are. Let's really breathe into that. So you guys, I'm going to wrap it up there today. I promise you, things are changing quickly. And I know, as I'm sure you're knowing, and you're probably wanting to tell this to me right now, is like, everything is going to be fine and it's going to be back to normal before you know it. These times of transition are really, they feel long in the middle of it, but they feel short when you look back at them. So until next time, please promise me that you'll just put a little bit of extra effort into taking care of yourself. If that means going to bed earlier, if that means saying no to something you said yes to, if that means taking a longer bath or moving your body or getting outside in nature or slowing down while you drink your cup of tea in the morning, whatever that looks like, whether it's a big thing or a small thing, just prioritize taking care of yourself and know that I will be doing the same. Thank you for spending this time with me today. I'll be back next week. And actually next week, I have an incredible episode that I'm very much looking forward to sharing with you. It is a wonderful conversation that I had a couple weeks ago with an intuitive healer. Her name is Holly Finucane. She's actually based out of Canada. And we did just kind of a little bit of a trade. So I did an astrological reading for her and went on her podcast to talk about astrology. And then she came on my podcast to share a little bit from within around her story of healing from major trauma experiences and how she lives a life where she's putting her healing into action. It's a pretty amazing episode. So be sure to tune in next week for that. And then after that, I'll be back and probably life will be totally different by then. You just never, ever know. So I'm excited to share those updates with you as I have them. And I'll be thinking of you in the meantime. So until next time.